We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
Joe Biden's social media team has been all a Twitter, one might say, on X this week, as they have put out numerous posts regarding economic positions of the president. But just how accurate are they? And what on earth are his team thinking? Well, we're lucky to be joined by Liberty Nation's Economics Affairs editor, Mr. Andrew Moran, to figure out just what has been going wrong in the digital village. Andrew, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's been a long time since I've done your show.
Well, you know what? It's that there's so much to cover, but we're glad to have you back. Now, Andrew, you wrote a fantastic article on the pages of libertynation.com this week. And the things that stuck out to me really were the tweets that Joe Biden's team has been putting out, or X posts, rather than tweets, that Joe Biden's team has been putting out. And even I can see that they're fallacious in many ways. So, Andrew, let's talk about the inflation one first, because that one kind of blew me away.
Yeah, I find that remarkable on many fronts. So the first, that he keeps claiming that inflation is falling, but as I've explained ad nauseum, inflation is not falling. It's a growth of rate that is slowing. Now, I guess he thinks that disinflation is the same as deflation, which of course is not the case. The second part that I found most fascinating is that he's actually advocating for corporate America to commit collusion. Now, as I noted in my article, you know, the typical statist or the FTC regulators even, they have three ways to look at the economy. If prices are falling, it's collusion. If prices are rising, it's price gouging. If prices are not going anywhere, then there's a lack of competition in the economy. So that's his. So he's actually he wants businesses to collude, but only for his political objective.
Now, what I'd love to do, Andrew, is dig a little bit deeper into this, because I know many of our listeners and viewers will know precisely how this works, but maybe not everybody understands the intricacies of it. So Joe Biden, he tweeted out, let me be clear to any corporation that hasn't brought their prices back down, even as inflation has come down. It's time to stop the price gouging. Give American consumers a break, end quote. Now, so the first part of that is he's saying that the prices aren't coming down in the stores, even though inflation has come down. Now, I'm not an economist and I don't play one on TV, Andrew, but my understanding is what he means, well, what he's not saying is that inflation, let's say, for example, last month inflation was 4% and this month it's 2%. Now, that doesn't mean that the price increases have dropped in half. What it means is that after 2 months, it's gone up 6%, rather than it's actually gone down. It hasn't gone down, so it's created a price. Let's say, for example, January added $1, and then February added another 50 cents on there because it was 4%, then 2%. So there's no going back. It's just that the rate of growth has slowed. Is that correct?
That is accurate. Also, the economy has many parts. There's many products within the U.S. economy. So let's use beef as an example. Food prices have eased from, I think to around 5%, but beef prices are growing exponentially on a month-over-month basis, and even it's starting to come back up again on a year-over-year basis. So there isn't a hegemony of one company. There's companies operate different sectors and have different price increases, different input price pressures. You see that constantly on the purchasing managers indexes from the S&P Global or the ISM.
Yeah, so Joe Biden is ignoring all those, or at least his team who puts out these tweets is ignoring those.
Yes,
and then
yes.
Then the second aspect is he's taking this. Now, let's be clear here. Inflation hasn't come down, so that is a lie when he says the words, inflation has come down. Inflation hasn't come down. That's a lie. But then he's using that lie to excoriate the companies and he's accusing them of price gouging. That's just desperately unfair. They're not price gouging. They're dealing with the inflation that's caused by Joe Biden's policies. Is that?
Yes, and I also can't stand the term price gouging. So
Yeah,
I,
yeah.
I produced a chart that was not published on Liberty Nation, but you can find it on Liberty Nation's X account, and it looks at the egg prices as an example of this. So egg prices have ebb and flow. There's been peaks and valleys of egg prices. So when it goes up, does that mean all these egg producers and supermarkets are price gouging? If it goes down, are they suddenly not greedy anymore? Are they not participating in greedflation? So prices go up and down, and I guess depending on who's in office or what the political end game is, it's always either one party is greedy or if it goes down, then we gotta completely ignore it. So there's so much to dissect and digest when it comes to the economic inanities emanating from the White House.
Now, I want to get your
Just like one other one that the Biden tweeted. The tweet about the billionaire.
We'll get to that one shortly, Andrew.
That's my favorite. That's my favorite.
So I want to just check here that my understanding is complete. He tweeted this out, so that means one of two things, and please tell me if there's a third option. One, either he or whomever made that X post is purposely trying to confuse the American people so Joe Biden looks better, or they don't understand what inflation is. And I can't think of a third option, but either of those two is quite worrying to me. Is there a third option?
Well, I think one is probably more accurate because, yes, we make fun of a lot of people, but I think, like Janet Yellen, for example, she's a smart lady. She knows better. She knows. I don't think she actually thinks that inflation is really falling. But number one, yeah. But if at the same time, a lot of these posts that come from the White House or the Biden account, they receive a lot of community notes where, they're fact checked in front of millions of people.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get to the one that you love, and now this is about this is the Biden team tweeting out. Excuse me on this quote: "A billionaire minimum tax of just 25% would raise 440 billion over the next 10 years. Imagine what we could do if we just made billionaires pay their taxes like everyone else." End quote. Andrew, give it to me.
The best part of that tweet was over the 10-year period. So you're raising 440 billion, and that's government estimate. That's a government estimate. So it's probably half of that number. But let's say 440 billion is the accurate number. 440 billion over 10 years. Do you know how much the White House projects cumulative deficits will be over that same span? $17 trillion. So you do the math, 440 billion out of 17 trillion. That obviously you have to know that revenue is not the problem in Washington.
Less than 3%, I believe that covers. By the way,
it's absolutely absurd to me how they think this is a realistic effort. Even if, let's say, you have 100% billionaires tax, that still doesn't cover these deficits at all. Not to mind you the consequences that result in the broader economy. But just if there isn't at all, you just have 100% billionaire minimum tax that would not keep the doors of Congress open for very long.
No, it's the idea that you could tax billionaires at a rate that wouldn't make them leave the country and leave the economy entirely. I mean, they pay their fair share, don't they? They pay the same as everyone else on a graded scale.
Yeah, so the top 1% of the country of the United States pays about half of the federal taxes in the United States. You go about 10%, they pay about nearly all of the taxes in the country. So overall, the rich, this thing has been bothering me I've been writing about it for years, and the rich do pay their fair share. They keep moving the goalposts of how much the fair share is. And this ties into another tweet from
sorry, Andrew, may I just interrupt there? I think it was it Thomas Sowell who said, what is your fair share of my money, or words to that effect?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he also had another great quote, and I posted the Liberty Nation's X account had that, and it was actually retweeted by Spike Cohen, who was a Libertarian Party member. Anyway, so he was so the quote is that why is it greedy to want to keep your own money, but why is it not greedy to want to take other people's money? That's not a great quote.
That is a great message there. And one final one for you, Andrew. I believe there was a tweet by Ro Khanna, Californian Democrat rep Ro Khanna.
Yeah, he said that the budget deficit in the United States was caused by Reagan tax cuts, Bush tax cuts, Trump tax cuts, and Bush's foreign wars. Now, the foreign wars is accurate, but the other tax cuts are not. If you look at the data, which you can go on Liberty Nation's X account, it shows that when these tax cuts were implemented, the U.S. government had greater revenues, greater federal receipts, and that's known as a Laffer curve. So yeah, so tax cuts lead to greater federal revenues. The problem is government spending. That's always been the problem. That will be the problem in perpetuity.
Andrew Moran, thank you ever so much.
Thank you for having me.
We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
Don't get caught up in the media madness. Join our movement for free thinking and free speech at libertynation.com. Publishing news and analysis 24/7 with original articles by our team of authors who tell it like it is. Join us each week for online TV shows, The Uprising Podcast, and Liberty Nation Radio. We believe in free thinking and free speech. We are libertynation.com.